Kunja Vihari Gopi Janavalabha Girivardhari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Janavalabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Janavalabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Prabhupada ki, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki, Gaur Premanande. Hare Krishna. So, Virabhadra Prabhu was unable to make it today, so they asked if I could give the class this morning. So we are reading today from Transcendental Diaries by His Grace Hari Sori Prabhu, and we're on chapter 9, Sridham Mayapur. So let's start with some prayers. Om Agyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swavadantikam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpataribhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Sridham Mayapur, February the 18th, 1976. With so many sannyasis around, I am constantly being asked to run here and there on errands. This distracts me from my service to Srila Prabhupada, but it is difficult to refuse their requests. Therefore, I asked Srila Prabhupada during his walk, what should I do? His simple quote made things very clear. Everybody's servant is no one's servant. That settled my mind. I decided to tend to him alone, and the sannyasis will have to make their own arrangements. This is a very powerful statement. Everybody's servant is no one's servant. So we see in material life we may become attached to serving so many different personalities, and Prabhupada makes this point. Sometimes we serve our cats, our dogs, whatever pets we have. We become servant of our children, we become servants of our boss at work. We have so many personalities who we have to answer to and who we take care of. But unless we realize that we're actually all ultimately servants of Krishna, then we may become misplaced in directing our services. How we direct our services will be based on our intention. And in this case, it was Hari Sori Prabhu's main service to take care of Srila Prabhupada, but he became so distracted and he started serving many other people as well. And on the one hand, it is a service to our spiritual masters to serve all of the Vaishnavas, but on the other hand, if that service of serving the Vaishnavas is interfering with our main service of serving him, then we have to really look at our situation and understand how we can actually take a step back and refocus. Guru is pleased when we serve the Vaishnavas, but if that interferes, then we have to ask for guidance and understand in what ways we should serve and where, because everybody's servant is no one's servant, ultimately. We are all servants of Krishna and our spiritual masters. There is concern among the sannyasis that some of the new sannyas candidates are not actually qualified for the renounced order. One candidate in particular, Mahavira Prabhu, is under question. Without naming any names, Jayapataka Maharaj brought up his doubt to Srila Prabhupada. Brahmacharis don't like to take instructions from the elder devotees, and then they want to take sannyas. So they think that that they think they can be independent and give orders themselves and not listen. So he's just pointing out that the intention of some of the brahmacharis in taking sannyas may not be to preach, which is the whole point behind accepting the renounced order of life, but it may just be because they don't want to remain a brahmachari and be told what to do all the time. They want to give the orders, which isn't actually the proper intention if a person is going into the renounced order of life. And actually, in Kali Yuga, there's a verse which describes that in Kali Yuga no one is actually meant to be sannyasi, because no one can be qualified. But for the purpose of preaching and because of the empowerment of Srila Prabhupada, we do have sannyasis in our movement who actually do qualify for being sannyas. But in this case, it seems that some of the initial devotees, in the initial brahmacharis in the movement, may have wanted that without having that proper intention of accepting the order for preaching purposes. And then Prabhupada replied that therefore sannyas should not be given all of a sudden. The problem is that they want to become sevya instead of sevaka, served instead of servant. With a few brief words, he exposed the fundamental problem. With a mixture of humor and irony, Prabhupada said, yes, and ultimately God. When everything failure, then to become God. Everyone, if he wants to become a master, that is materialism. So that last snare of Maya is to think, oh yes, I am God. Even the great yogis who are practicing meditation for many, many years, and they accomplish so many things actually. They defeat so many material obstacles, and they're on their way to enlightenment. But then Maya creeps in, and that last snare of Maya is to think, oh, I am God, look at me, I am great. And then Prabhupada is pointing out that when we give up on being a servant, then we think, let me just become God instead. So that's the mentality when we give that up, and the false ego becomes inflamed. And Prabhupada said, if he wants to become master, that is materialism. A striking analogy was given in the Srimad Bhagavatam verse this morning, explaining the relationship between Krishna and his devotee. If a face is nicely decorated, so its reflection in a mirror will also be. Prabhupada explained that if Krishna is satisfied, the devotee, as his reflection or aligned part and parcel, is also automatically satisfied. Since Krishna is complete in himself, whatever service we do to please him is actually for our own benefit. So sometimes when we are asked to do a service, we may think, oh, but it's for Krishna, it's not for me, then I don't know if I want to do it if I don't get benefit. But actually all service ultimately is for our benefit. Like we may be asked to chant 16 rounds and follow the regulative principles, and it's not that Guru is giving us orders just because he wants to, it's because it's for our benefit. And Krishna and Guru, they're actually Atmaram, they're self-satisfied, they don't even need our service. But they're allowing us to engage in service because it's for our benefit. Srila Prabhupada used our attempts to build a big temple here in Mayapur as a practical example to illustrate his point, giving us deeper realizations of the nature of our work. Everything belongs to Krishna. Just like we are constructing this temple, we are feeling that I am constructing, we are constructing, but actually it is Krishna's. The bricks, the iron, or the cement, or anything that we are collecting, that is Krishna's property. The brick is not your property. The earth is not your property. You are taking Krishna's earth and you are making it a brick. Still, it is Krishna's property, but the endeavor, the energy which you are giving to Krishna, that is taken into account. Oh, he is working for me. He wants to give me something. That Krishna consciousness is important. And I like to meditate on how whatever we use in Krishna's service purifies the whole process of making whatever it is that we are using. Like, for example, this table. This table came, well, initially there was a tree, and then someone cut the tree, and then it was processed in a factory, and then somebody sold it at a store, and now the table is here in the temple, and every day the table holds Bhagavatam. So the whole process of making the table becomes purified because everything is offered back to Krishna. So all of the people involved in getting the table here also receive some benefit from that, because Krishna acknowledges that they engaged in some service. Like the person who assisted, or the people who assisted in the factory to get this table ready, the people who sold the table, everyone who was involved in actually getting the table here to us so that we can read Bhagavatam from this table, and also the tree itself, they all get some benefit from that. So Krishna consciousness is all purifying, and it's so wonderful that whatever we're engaging in Krishna service, the carpets, this table, the Vyasasana, and all the parts and the components that make up the Vyasasana, and every little thing, our whole lives become purified, and everyone involved in our lives also receives a benefit from that. And it just comes down to acknowledging that nothing belongs to us, everything belongs to Krishna. And our bodies also belong to Krishna, and that's why we should try our best to utilize our bodies in the service of the Lord and not otherwise. Otherwise, by his will, he can construct 16,000 palaces for his queens. What this tiny temple will satisfy him? But still, he's satisfied. Oh, you have done so much. Very good. Recognized. Krishna has created the whole universe. He doesn't require any endeavor. Simply by his breathing, many millions of Brahmas are coming out, and each Brahma is creating a universe. So to create a temple, he doesn't require our help. He can create millions of temples by his will. There are already. So we should always remember this, that Krishna does not require our service. But if we give some service to Krishna, that is our benefit. This is the formula. Gopal Krishna sent a letter enclosing samples of the new Srimad Bhagavatam printed in India on government concessional paper. Prabhupada was extremely pleased with him for finally getting his books into print here in India. Many other Hindi and English books are to be printed in Delhi at a cost of only 10 rupees each for the best quality paper. Bhargava is production manager, and Amoga will help with university sales. In response to Gopal Krishna's requests, Prabhupada asked Dayananda to contact Rameshvara in Los Angeles. He wants Rameshvara to send to India, via the devotees coming for the festival, numerous color separations. The booklet, The Krishna Consciousness Movement is Authorized, reviews by professors, and a complete list of universities and colleges that have standing orders for his books. Srila Prabhupada countersigned Dayananda's letter, thus clearly declaring his strong desire for this new phase of preaching in India. Srila Prabhupada's scheme is to push these books on a gigantic scale here in India. He is personally organizing and motivating the project. We have especially experienced here that His Divine Grace smiles and is very pleased to hear the comments by the professors. These books are especially Prabhupada's glory, and those comments prove that Prabhupada's glory and the philosophy of Krishna consciousness is being appreciated by the intelligent men of the West. Prabhupada recently said, "I know those that are sane, they will accept. No one is distributing so much quantity of religious books. Therefore, I challenge all these fools and rascals. After 80 years, no one can expect to live long. My life is almost ended. It is ended. So you have to carry on, and these books will do everything. Simply by bluffing words, those bogus gurus and yogis are nothing. But when the people read our books, then they will get good opinion. Everywhere, India especially, the book demonstrations and opinions must be widely spread. Srila Prabhupada was very pleased when his disciples were preaching to the intellectual class of men, because there's a verse in Srimad Bhagavatam which explains that whatever great men do, all the world will follow, all the common people will follow. So in this world, the people who are considered great, or the people who have some academic credit, or who have some opulence, or like fame, or perhaps they're leaders of the country, whatever they do, common people tend to follow. So if people in academia take to Krishna consciousness, or if people who are leading society in some way take to Krishna consciousness, then they will have a big influence on the whole world. And every day not every day, we're going out twice a week to university, preaching there, and it's so wonderful to see the impact that it has on campus. And Srila Prabhupada would be very pleased by that. Shri Shri Radharanath ki, Srila Prabhupada ki. And now we are a devotee. Now we are going to flood India with your books, just like they have done in America. Prabhupada, thank you, that I want. Then you will be first class. Organize book distribution here, and I shall be very much obliged. That's quite an amazing statement. Prabhupada is saying that if they organize the book distribution in India, he will be obliged. The truth is that we are ever obliged to our spiritual masters for what they are giving us. They are never obliged to us, but Srila Prabhupada is saying, if you distribute my books here in India, I will be obliged to you. That is inconceivable. And Srila Prabhupada is encouraging us to continue. He's saying that he's going to leave his body. He's saying that his life is ended. And Srila Prabhupada was telling one of his disciples that you have to travel everywhere and preach everywhere. I can travel everywhere, but there is one place I cannot go. And the disciple was thinking, where can Prabhupada not go? He's been everywhere already, and he's still traveling. And he asked Srila Prabhupada where that was, and Srila Prabhupada said, I cannot go into the future. That's what he said. He can go everywhere, but he cannot go into the future. It's our responsibility to, on his behalf, distribute those books and to continue serving as he would have wanted us to serve. On the one hand, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur writes this poem that he who says that Vaishnavas he reasons ill who say that Vaishnavas die, for thou art living still in sound. A Vaishnav lives to die, lives to die, and in dying spreads the holy name all around. So Srila Prabhupada is still here, and he's fully present within his books. He's seated there on Vyasasan. So we still actually have Srila Prabhupada with us, but we also have him through his instruction, through following his instruction. He comes with us on Harinam. We're not going out on our own. He is coming with us. He's coming within the books, and also hopefully in our hearts, in our consciousness. Srila Prabhupada is still here, and he is still preaching. But we need to make the effort to help people be introduced to Srila Prabhupada by going out to distribute the books, because they're not going to be distributed just on their own. And again, it's not that Prabhupada needs that. Actually, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, when he was leaving, he said that I am leaving my work unfinished. It's not that he couldn't have continued, or it's not that in his lifetime he couldn't have spread the holy name all over the world. He could have. Any pure devotee can do that. But they do leave the work unfinished. And it's because for our benefit. We get to participate in preaching. That is for our benefit. They don't need it. They could have done it themselves, but they leave it for us. They leave the work for us. Even our spiritual masters, they could have done it, but they left the work for us, and we have to keep it going. It becomes a responsibility, and then by preaching, we have an opportunity to become dear to Krishna, because Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, there's no one more dear to me than he who explains this knowledge. So we are being given the opportunity to become dear to Krishna. How else will we become dear to Krishna? How else will we go back to the spiritual world? We have no hope otherwise. We've been given everything. We've been given everything by being given that opportunity to serve in that way. Jayapataka Maharaj returned from Calcutta and reported that his meeting with the government ministers arranged through Mr. Chaudhary was very successful. The land acquisition should be no problem and can be done quickly. He explained that land acquisition works in this way. If the government is convinced that a major project is important or beneficial enough for the district, then an average price for a parcel of land for the last 10 years is calculated. The landowners of the plots required must sell at that price. This prevents artificial inflation of land values, which is to no one's benefit. Initially, we are asking for only 23 acres, and we will ask for more later. February the 19th, 1976. The morning walk was on the roof again, but it has become too hot for Prabhupada to have his massage in the sun, even when a breeze is blowing. It is, however, still very pleasant to be on the roof during the morning hours, and Prabhupada seems to enjoy the simple facilities. Because of the heat, he sits in the shade atop the wide wooden bench in the lee of the room to receive his massage. But for bathing, he sits in his gamcha on a chonki in the sunshine and washes off the oils from a bucket of solar-heated water. He still takes his meals in the sparsely furnished room. He has a couple of hours entirely to himself, while I stay close by in the adjoining room. Then he goes back down to his quarters at about 4 o'clock to greet guests and meet with devotees. Because the weather has become quite hot, some visiting devotees are buying flavored ice on sticks from the stalls in front of the temple. Jayapataka Swami asked Prabhupada if we can make our own iced sherbet drink for the Gaur Purnim festival. He's afraid that the devotees will become ill because the local confection is generally made from bad water. Prabhupada was disturbed to hear that devotees are eating outside. He quite emphatically said, "No one may buy anything from the market. If they eat these things, they will fall down. No one should eat anything not offered to the deity." Prabhupada's son, Vrindavan Chandra, and also his sister, known affectionately to the devotees as Pishima, Bengali for auntie, arrived in the afternoon. She plans to stay for the whole festival. So Srila Prabhupada was quite disturbed to hear that the devotees were eating or honoring eating from outside, perhaps not offering what they were eating to Krishna first. And he's saying that they will fall down if they're not eating anything offered to the deity. But it's also a matter of consciousness that a person who is not practicing Krishna consciousness, if they cook something, they're putting their consciousness into what they're making, and it's an energy, and that becomes absorbed in the body when we intake that. So then the consciousness actually, it can become material again. Actually, if we stop practicing Krishna consciousness, we'll fall back down to how we used to be. If you think about a few years ago, when, before you started practicing, how you used to be. That's how we would become again if we stopped practicing. And if we do associate with those who are materially minded, we become like them. And by honoring or eating something that is cooked by them, that is a way of associating with them as well. Whereas, on the other hand, if we're honoring Krishna Prasadam, the consciousness becomes purified, it becomes cleansed. February the 20th, 1976. Today is the appearance day of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada, which we are all observing with a half-day fast. The Gaudiya Math down the road has invited the governor of Pondicherry to speak at its function, which is being held at the Samadhi Mandir of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. Jayapataka Swami was supposed to ask the governor to visit our temple later, but somehow he failed to do so. The only way it could be arranged at this late date would be for Jayapataka Maharaj to go to the Chaitanya Math this morning and ask the governor's aide de camp. Srila Prabhupada decided against this because, as he jokingly put it, the hosts are hostile. The Gaudiya Math didn't invite Prabhupada, and we have not invited them. Anyway, he said, one book distributed in America is more important than the visit of any governor. In America, we have never approached any politicians for support. Prabhupada kept his usual schedule today with a walk, greeting the deities, and class on Srimad Bhagavatam. He clearly defined the nature of our movement. If we want to adjust this chaotic condition, then we require the incarnation of God. That is already there. Nama Rupe Kali Kale Krishna Avatara. This Hare Krishna movement is the incarnation of Krishna in the form of name. This Hare Krishna movement is the incarnation of Krishna in the form of name. The Sankirtan movement, which was inaugurated by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna himself. So this Hare Krishna movement is not different from Krishna or Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So if we take shelter of this holy name of the Lord, Hare Krishna, then we shall be saved. He revealed also how the name of the temple here is a beautiful metaphor. It's based on the statements of Srila Prabodhananda Saraswati, one of the great devotees of Lord Chaitanya, describing the temple's purpose of saving the fallen souls. In Prabodhananda's Sri Chaitanya Chandramrita, Lord Chaitanya is compared to the full moon. He said, the ultimate benefit of life is compared with the moon, so spreading Krishna consciousness means spreading the moonlight. Therefore, we have named this temple Sri Mayapur Chandrodaya, the rising moon of Sri Mayapur. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Gaura Hari, and Prabodhananda Saraswati said, Sadhava Sakalam Eva Vihaya Durat Chaitanya Chandra Charane Kuritanu Ragam. Prabhupada sent me down to the temple at 9 o'clock in the morning to see whether many visitors had gathered for the coming program in honor of his Guru Maharaj. To my surprise, the temple was empty. Prabhupada then called for Hridayananda Das Goswami to discuss why there were no visitors yet on such an important day. Hridayananda Maharaj said that it was probably due to the fact that the general public are not aware of the occasion. The festival had obviously not been well advertised, because at Gaura Purnim tens of thousands of people come here during the festival week. Prabhupada wasn't very satisfied. He thought more should have been done to attract the public. After an early massage, Prabhupada went down to the temple room at 11 o'clock and offered his obeisances to the large painting of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur that had been placed on the Vyasa-san. He seemed very satisfied to see the beautiful decorations. There were long multicolored drapes hung along the back wall, as well as strands of marigolds draped around the Vyasa-san, and banana trees and leaves were placed all around. Moving to the front of the Vyasa-san area, he sat comfortably on an asana on the floor, with his back to the jali work fence. Achyutananda Swami sang songs glorifying Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, notably O He Vaishnava Thakura. Afterward, Srila Prabhupada gave a wonderful lecture requesting devotees to do two things: help develop Mayapur and distribute many books. He said that this was his Guru Maharaj's desire. His Guru Maharaj's father, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, had rediscovered the birth site of Lord Chaitanya, and it was his attempt to develop it. Then Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur continued the effort, and now he and his godbrothers were also doing that, what they could. We have got great ambition to develop this place nicely and gloriously. Unfortunately, we are now connected with foreign countries, especially with the Americans. Bhaktivinoda Thakur's great desire was that the Americans would come here and develop this place, and they would chant and dance along with the Indians. From this place, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu started this movement, and he desired that as many towns and villages are there, this Krishna consciousness movement should be spread. So this Krishna consciousness movement is now in your hand. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he wanted me to do something in this connection. He wanted from all his disciples. Especially he stressed many times that you do this. Whatever you have learned, you try to explain in English language. So for a pure devotee, whatever they desire is not different from the desire of their spiritual masters. So whatever Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur desired was fulfilled by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and then that desire was carried over to Srila Prabhupada, and whatever Srila Prabhupada desired is now being given to us to continue to distribute books and assist with the temples, especially Mayapur, and especially preaching in the West. So because this was an instruction given to Srila Prabhupada, it is also our duty to assist Srila Prabhupada in fulfilling that. Our spiritual masters are also only working on his behalf. And by doing that, we are actually assisting the Lord in his pastimes. So Lord Chaitanya's Leela did not end when Lord Chaitanya disappeared from our vision. He is still here. And actually his movement is not different from him. This is what we read earlier, how the Hare Krishna movement is the incarnation of Krishna in the form of name. This movement, it is not different from the Lord, actually. The whole movement is not different from the Lord's pastimes. The Lord, his name, his form, qualities, pastimes. So when we're going on Harinam Sankirtan, not only are we going with Srila Prabhupada, but we're going with Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we're going with Lord Nityananda, we're going with Radharani and Krishna. They're with us. They are with us when we are fulfilling the instructions of our spiritual masters and continuing and trying to assist with this movement. Then we are actually always in their association. We're in the association of the Lord and his pure devotees when we are serving. And we are actually in the Leela of Lord Chaitanya, continuing in the Leela, but that Leela will continue whether we are there or not. The Leela will still continue. If we make a decision to be a part of that Leela, then our whole lives become transformed. And we get to experience the joy of actually becoming a servant of our spiritual masters. Prabhupada told us how in 1935 he had gone to visit his Guru Maharaj in Radhakund. At that time he had received some frank and revealing advice from his spiritual master, which formed the basis of all his future endeavors. When he was in Radhakund, I was at that time in Bombay in connection with my business life. So I came to see him, and one friend wanted to give some land in Bombay for starting Bombay Gaudiya Math. He's my friend. So that's a long story, but I wish to narrate this. The Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami mission. And this is important for all of us to hear, because that is our mission too. So let's listen carefully. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada immediately took up the land. He continued that there is no need of establishing many temples. Better we publish some books. He said like that. He said that we started this Gaudiya Math in Alta Danga. The rent was very small, and if we could gather 2 to 250 rupees, it was very nice going on. But since this J.V. Datta has given us this stone, marble, Thakur Bari, our competition between the disciples has increased. So I don't like anymore. Rather, I would prefer to take out this marble stone and sell it and publish some books. So whether or not we have a temple, still we should go on book distribution. So I took that point, and he also especially advised me, if you get money, you try to publish books. So by his blessing, it has become very successful by your cooperation. Now our books are being sold all over the world, and it is very satisfactory sale. So on this particular day of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's advent, try to remember his words, that he wanted many books should be published about our philosophy, and it should be given to the English-knowing public especially, because English language is now world language. We are touring all over the world. Anywhere we speak English, it is understood, except in some places. So on this day, particularly on the advent of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, I especially request my disciples who are cooperating with me that you try to publish books, as many as possible, and distribute throughout the whole world. That will satisfy Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as well as Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Thank you very much. So Srila Prabhupada is just giving us exactly what we need to do to satisfy the whole Guru Parampara and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We need to print and publish and distribute books that will satisfy them. And Srila Prabhupada was given only very few instructions by his spiritual master. He met him only a very few times. But whatever instruction he received, he took that as his life and soul. He took that as the mission of his life. And with that, look at what he has done. He has established a worldwide movement with thousands and thousands of disciples. And we are given many, many instructions. We are given these, we are all situated under the umbrella of these main instructions, but we are given also many personal instructions. And if we really follow that, how much can we do on behalf of our spiritual masters? There's a lot we can do on their behalf, and they'll be very pleased with us. After his speech, we gathered in front of the Vyasasan and performed the Pushpaschali Puja, an offering of flowers. Prabhupada had Achyutananda Swami chant the 4 pranam prayers to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. Then, following Srila Prabhupada's lead, we offered a flower to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati's picture on the Vyasasan. This procedure was repeated 3 times. Prabhupada then called for Bhanudas, a Japanese-Canadian brahmachari from the Namahata party, to offer the arti. This special feast, cooked in Srila Bhaktisiddhanta's honor, was brought in and set out on low tables directly in front of the Vyasasan. Srila Prabhupada stood in front and played his kartals, while Achyutananda Maharaj led an ecstatic kirtan, which had us all jumping high in the air. During the kirtan, Prabhupada asked me to gather a sample of every preparation onto his plate and take it up to his room. He wanted to check what the devotees had cooked to glorify his Guru Maharaj. He also wanted to offer his own respects by taking Srila Bhaktisiddhanta's remnants. After the program finished, Prabhupada returned upstairs and ate the feast. He was happy with all the arrangements, but he again appeared disappointed that only about 100 guests had come. In fact, during his massage, he had criticized the management for erecting such a large building and not inviting anyone to come, only local people, no one from Calcutta. Only the deity program is going nicely, he remarked, referring to the two English identical twin brothers who are the head Diaries. Prabhupada declared, the two brothers, Pankajangri and Jananivas, there is no comparison. Everyone should know there is no complaint. So Srila Prabhupada is complaining that they have built this big temple and they're only inviting local people. He wanted that many more people should come. And even we have a huge temple, this beautiful temple, Shri Shri Radharana, and the deity worship is going on so nicely. But what would please Prabhupada is if this temple room were full every day. That's what would please him. He's saying only 100 guests had come for this festival, but when we have a festival, we don't even get 100 guests. Why not? We have to go and preach more and bring people more. And we have to go not just locally. Prabhupada didn't want that. He wants us to go far and wide and bring people from far and wide as far as possible and fill up the temple room. And he's glorifying his pujaris, Pankajangri and Jananivas. In the afternoon, two sannyasis from the neighboring Goswami Math came to invite Prabhupada to visit their temple tomorrow. Earlier in the day, toward the end of the massage, a brahmachari from his godbrother, Sridhar Swami's Math, had also visited. He had a short discussion with Prabhupada about Sridhar Swami's coming here to visit. The brahmachari returned with a few others in the afternoon and held further discussions. And that brings us to the end of our reading for today. His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki! Are there any questions or comments? Madhurya?
I just wanted to ask if you could explain a little bit more how he said that the Hare Krishna movement is the incarnation of the Lord in the form of the name. Why the movement is the Lord in the form of the name?
Well, the movement itself is not different. We read how the movement itself is not different from, it's an incarnation of the Lord in His name. Because when we're serving, well, this is my understanding. I'd have to think about it a lot more, though, carefully. When we're serving our spiritual masters, then we're directly associating with them. So when we're serving Krishna, we're directly associating with Him. And serving our spiritual masters means also serving Krishna. So by going out on Sankirtan, which is what the movement is based on, that is direct service for our spiritual masters and ultimately also for Krishna. And by directly serving them, we are associating with them. So that the whole movement becomes associated with the Lord, and anything associated with the Lord is not different from the Lord. That's kind of how I understood it. Anything associated with the Lord is not different from the Lord, but I think it's also a matter of achinta beta beta tattva, which we love so much. Like we can say our spiritual masters are just like Krishna, because Krishna is within their hearts. They're always associating with Krishna. They're speaking on behalf of Krishna. They're serving on behalf of Krishna. So it's just as if Krishna were there. But of course we don't say they are God. We don't say they are Krishna, but we worship them as if they are, because they are so closely associated. So the movement itself is so closely associated with Krishna that it is Krishna. All of you, so closely associated, but of course we are not Krishna. The movement perhaps is not Krishna himself, but so closely associated that it is Krishna, not different. And because the movement is based on chanting, and chanting is not different from the Lord, that is Krishna. The movement is Krishna. So when we're entering into that, then we're associating directly with Krishna. It's his movement, and because his name, form, qualities, and pastimes are not different from him, and the movement is his pastime. So that's why it's not different from him. It's part of his pastime. Pastime, not different. I hope that's okay.
Yeah, that's nice. And it just made me think, like, also Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he said that, like our movement should actually be about Kirtaniya Sada Hari. So basically, always constantly chanting the holy name. So yeah.
Kirtaniya Sada Hari, constant chanting of the holy name. Yeah, constant association. Okay, is there anything else? Thank you for that. I also kind of had a realization as I was speaking. Really, that statement was so powerful.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for your wonderful class discussion. I just want to share a realization going back many years ago. This was before COVID. So Chestnut Fair had its, they had a fair around the area at the stadium. So every year they have a festival there. And they have like merry-go-rounds and different rides and different stalls. So we had our own stall. It's Ajahn Prabhu and I, we had our own stall at that site. And we had about 4-5 Bhagavad Gitas to distribute there. And for me to distribute all these Bhagavad Gitas, it wasn't easy for me at all. And I was totally weak and scared to meet like some people out there, because it wasn't easy for me at all. And Ajahn Prabhu looked at my face and he told me, like, do you want to please Krishna or you want to reject Krishna? So I said, no, I want to please Krishna into disputing all his knowledge, which I did. And somehow it worked. And you just place the Bhagavad Gita in people's hand, and then they want to take a book. And they want to give a donation for that book. And yeah, that was my realization I had, and some experience I had with disputing Bhagavad Gitas and all that. It was an amazing experience. But also nothing to, like, going back 10 years, going back 10 years ago when I first came to the movement, and there were lots of people in the temple room. But the thing is, now we are the people today. So it is for us to go out there and distribute some of the books and invite more people and come to the temple. Even like we're going for house programs and stuff like that. So it is our duty to invite more people and come to the temple. So the temple will be full up with more people. Thank you.
Thank you, Ramendra Swarup Prabhu, for that realization and for sharing that. By facing your fears and speaking to the people and following the instructions to distribute the books, even though it may have been so difficult, it was so greatly pleasing to our spiritual masters. His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki, Gaur Premanand